Good morning, friends. How is everybody this morning? And I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. I have been so busy. I've been having a ball with my new chickens. They're just loving their new home. And of course, when I did the video on naming the rooster, we did in fact name him Rocky, because everybody thought there was so many people that said, name him Rocky. So that's his new name, Little Rocky. Anyway, they're doing fantastic. Healthy birds. I am just so impressed with the way the gentleman that I got him from has a farm out in Boone. Not too far from here, maybe about 40 minutes. Anyway, he has a lovely little farm out there, and I bought those chickens from him, and he took such good care of them to help them get a wonderful start at life. I was so impressed, and I can't thank him enough, because those chickens are so healthy. And they've been having a good time in their new home. And I decided that my daughter-in-law, Lexi, you all know Lexi, she's going to make a sign for the chicken coop, because I named the chicken coop Cluckingham Palace. Because I always talk about them like in their little palace out there. So I'm going to call it Cluckingham Palace. And she's going to make a sign for it. It's going to be darling. Anyway, we had a wonderful weekend. We finished up the chicken coop. So now it is completely done and anchored into the ground. So, you know, if we ever get strong gust winds, we don't get tornadoes or anything like that. That's usually southern part of Michigan. But if we get strong wind, it won't blow it over. And so they're good and safe in there. And then I'll show you too on my next vlog that I do. I'm going to grow herbs around their chicken coop for them. And it'll also, you know, two purposes. I like to put herbs in the nesting boxes because the hens like that. And, you know, happy hens, lots of eggs. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do too, is put herbs in their nesting boxes. So I'm just going to grow them around there. Plus, they help to deter pests. And it's wonderful. So they've got 3 nice flower boxes, or 2 flower boxes in a nice round old-fashioned pot that I'm going to grow herbs in out there. So it'll be nice. And so that's completely done. The only thing that we are going to do, we're going to add another 10 feet of run. But I showed you before we were going to put it behind the chicken coop by the neighbor's fence. Well, my husband thought it would be better if we just kept the chicken coop one size. You know, so he's going to add another 10-foot run on right off the side of the chicken coop. So they'll have a lot of room to run. And then we worked on the greenhouse. The greenhouse came in, and I thought I was going to die trying to pull that thing through the back door, because they set it on our back porch, and I think it weighs about 150 pounds. And it was raining, pouring down rain, and it was all wet, so I didn't see when it came in. So I thought, oh my gosh, I opened the door and I'm trying to drag this 150, 200 pounds. I don't know, it was heavy. It took me about a half hour to get it into the sun porch. I thought I was going to die. Anyway, so we worked on that. We got it all staked down. We got the frame all put together. The only thing we have left to do with that, and I did a video on it, by the way, too, you know, going through the steps and that. And Mr. Wayna was even on the camera. I think there's a period in time on that video that he's actually singing to the radio. Now, I don't know if I can keep that on there. It depends on how much of the radio you can hear, because, you know, copyright. So anyway, but it'll be fun if we can get him on there. He was a hoot. And him and I do projects together, and we have so much fun. We never fight or anything like that. We have a ball. But anyway, we got it all staked down, and we did a couple mistakes. Of course, neither one of us have ever put up a greenhouse of that, like that. So there was a couple of spots we had to take back apart and make it straight because somehow we got it crooked. I don't know. We were just having too much fun. Anyway, it's staked down. All we've got to do is tighten all the bolts on it and put the plastic over it, and it'll be ready to go. And we're going to, of course, put dirt and rocks and stuff around the edges so that the wind don't get up under it and carry it away, or the plastic anyway. So that will be finished probably in the next few days. So then when that's done, I'll edit the video and put it up. We had a ball. And we just had an absolute lovely weekend. And we usually have grandkids on the weekend and kids here on the weekends. And we're always usually have a house full. And this weekend it was just my husband and I. And we're like, oh my, we're all alone. What are we going to do? So I told him when we got, this was on Saturday. And on Sunday we started the greenhouse. But on Saturday we finished up the chicken coop. And then we went down to the Amish that live down the road, and I got my 2 big totes of horse manure from them. And we brought that back to the house. Oh, here I go yawning again. We brought that back to the house, and then I said, you know what? Let's go for a ride. I love to go for rides in the springtime when everything is starting to come back to life. It's wonderful. And it was warmer. It was close to 60 degrees out, so it was nice. Beautiful for a ride. Anyway, 4.5-hour ride we went on. We rode around everywhere, down 2 tracks, down, dirt roads, and my husband found a place that was for sale. And he said, oh my goodness, if I could, I would buy that in a minute and we'd move out there. Not that we don't like living in the village. It's just that we've thought many times that it would be kind of nice to sell our house and go out in the country a little farther. And we can do all kinds of stuff then, because we're pretty limited to what we can do in the village. But anyway, with that, we went for a ride all over. We gathered rocks that I found on the side of the road, for nice size rocks for my flower garden. And then I got a bunch of wood that was laying in the ditch, and we picked that up and put that in the back of the Jeep for the fire pit, and we just enjoyed our company. We had a ball looking at everything. My husband wound up taking me out to dinner. I had roasted chicken and it was so good. So we come back and we got ready for Sunday morning, and we got up and I've been yawning, and I know it's contagious. You're going to yawn. Anyway, we got up Sunday morning, we went and had some breakfast, and then we come back and started working on the greenhouse. And after the greenhouse, next month we'll be doing the raised beds. We'll be getting them all ready. But it's really coming along. We are absolutely meeting our goals this time, busting our rear ends, but we're getting there. And it's looking good. The yard is looking wonderful. And I'm so pleased with the chickens. Yesterday, I'm scared to death of snakes. I'll tell you that. And we were staking down, we were pounding the stakes in for the greenhouse. So I'm sitting right on the ground because I'm pounding the stake and he's holding it. And I set the mallet down, and there was a night crawler. I bet you he was that long. He looked like a snake. And it startled me because he was so big. And I screamed, and I never jumped up. I jumped up like a 20-year-old. Never jumped up that fast in my life. But anyway, I jumped up, and he grabbed that worm. I says, give that to the chickens. I love it. And he threw that worm in the chicken coop. But they just went crazy over that thing, and I swear to God, it was big enough they all got a piece of it. But they were running and chasing and spreading their wings and having a ball. So I thought, if they like that worm that much, I took a handful of my compost, just my leaves and stuff and some of my old straw that's been composted down, and I put that in their cage. And let me tell you, those chickens went nuts over that. They absolutely loved it. So all that day, when we take a break all Sunday, I'd put a little more compost into their coop, into their pen. So they scratched around and they were happy birds. So I'm going to keep doing that, and then I'll just rake it up and replace it with some new, and that's a good way for them to work your compost down, because they are fantastic little workers. But I don't want them running loose in my yard, because living in the village, I'm scared they'll wander out to the road, and I don't want them to get hit. And otherwise, out in the country, I would let them run. I would just let them completely free range, but I can't in the village. So the best that I can do is give them lots of space in their coop and add to it. So their coop will be, when we're done with it, right now it's 8 feet long by 4 feet wide by 6.5 feet tall. So when we're all done with it, it's going to be 18 feet long by 4 feet wide. So they'll have an extra 10 by 4 of space. So I think that's going to be enough for 11 hens to roam around and scratch around. And I don't know. I'd love for them to run around the yard. And my husband and I, we kind of debated back and forth. I said, why don't you just build a little chicken tractor out of 1x3s and some wire that, I can just lift up. I can put them in there, and I can move that chicken tractor all around the yard, and they can have a ball in there. Plus, they fertilize your grass. They thatch your lawn, scratching. It's wonderful. And you don't leave them in the same spot for a week till they, tear your grass up completely. You just let them scratch around, thatch it up, and each day you move them to a different section of your yard, and they love it. And they will eat the hell, out of ticks and mosquitoes and fleas and anything like that. Pill bugs is one of their favorite, So they'll eat all those bugs. They're wonderful I call them yard patrol. That's what they used to be. And when I had my 40 laying hens, when I did live up in the country, I just let them run. They were completely and entirely free range. I left their coop door open all the time, except at night, of course. When they'd go in there, then I'd close the coop door and I'd open up in the morning, and they could do whatever they wanted. And these little guys here that I got now, the little ladies, they're learning how to use the ladder in their coop. They're figuring it out. They stand out there when I open up the coop in the morning. It's hilarious because you see all these heads peeking out, looking at me. And then every morning when I open up their coop, I sprinkle a jar of their scratch. Probably 2 cups of scratch. I sprinkle it all over the bottom. So all you see is their little heads poking out. And they're looking at me, and they're looking at that scratch, and pretty soon they start flying out. They don't get going up and down that little ladder yet. And then they fly back up there, but some of them are learning how to go up and down that ladder. And they're fun. I'm telling you, backyard chickens are the greatest because they do so much for you, and they actually give you entertainment. They're actually entertainment. And chickens are very smart. A lot of people don't realize that. Chickens are smart. A chicken will never, ever, ever forget a face. Whether they're good or bad to them, a chicken will always remember your face. And, it's like the laying hens. It's kind of neat with laying hens because they literally talk to their eggs. They cackle at their eggs while they're laying on their nest. And they're teaching their chicks how to talk. Not like you and I talk, but you know what I mean. They're teaching them their different sounds for their different commands. And it really is neat how a hen is she's very protective of those babies. They're wonderful. She teaches them from day one. And I don't know, I just love chickens. Enough about chickens. I've talked to you enough about. You're going to have chickens coming out your ears. My chickens coming out your ears because I always talk about my chickens. I just am so happy and grateful that I was able to get them. And I even went down to the village and I paid my land use permit. That really didn't make sense to me because, well, now my coop's going to be bigger. But before, my coop was only 8 feet by 4 feet. And they said, oh, you have to have a land use permit for that. If you look around this village, You'll see sheds. That means anybody, no matter what you put up, no matter what size it is, you have to get a land use permit. Granted, it was only $25, but I just thought, that's really odd, because I know half these people around here, they didn't pay a land use permit for a shed or anything. And not that I'm complaining, I just thought it was kind of odd, because I had to pay a land use permit for my chicken coop, which is 8 by 4 by 6 feet high. But the greenhouse we're putting up, which is 10 by 20 by 7 feet high, we didn't need, and that's a permanent structure. They said we didn't need a land use permit for it. But we needed one for the chicken coop, which really is portable. Go figure. I don't know. I told my husband says, that's the goofiest thing I ever heard. I said, yeah, me too. I said, but you know what? Oh well, we'll do it, because we're good people. We'll pay them, you know. And I said, I almost expect them to come around and say, whoa, you do got to have a land use permit for that greenhouse. And that's no problem. I'll go buy one. Not the least bit worried. But anyway, I just thought it was kind of odd, because I always thought that a land use permit, I always thought it went by size. Like, say, anything bigger than 10 by 10, you'd need to get a permit. But I guess in the village, it doesn't matter. The only thing's excluded is a doghouse. That's the only thing that is excluded from a land use permit in this village, is a doghouse. Oh well, that's all right. Anyway, the weekend was absolutely phenomenal. I haven't been doing a whole lot of cooking videos, but I'm going to do, I need to, now that it's come summertime, I need to put together my cake mixes, because I do graduation cakes and I do stuff like that, and I do it all homemade. So I'm going to do a video on cake mixes that you can just store in your pantry instead of going out and buying a box cake mix. You know, these ones are even better. You know what's in them, and they're going to taste homemade. Definitely. So I'm going to do a video on that. I'm going to do a video on the white cake mix and the chocolate cake mix. And I wanted to do a homemade pineapple cherry dump cake recipe, because I'm going to do that for Easter. My grandkids love that. And but I didn't have my can of cherries, so that was that. I can't do that one today. So I'm going to do the cake mixes and the dry cake mixes for storing in your pantry. And I haven't done any grocery shopping. Oh my gosh, I haven't had time to go grocery shopping. I don't need to go grocery shopping. I'm probably not going to do any of that until May. I'll probably won't even do any grocery shopping in April, because I've got so much outside that I want to take care of. And being that we need a little extra money for the wood and the stuff, you know, for doing the greenhouse and things like that, I figure I've got so many groceries. You know, I still got a pantry full. And you can see that it is getting close to the end of season, because I am getting bare spots in here. But still, I've got a plenty in my freezer, in my fridge here, that I don't need to go to the grocery store for the month of April. So I'm going to take that money that I normally would spend at the grocery store, and I'm going to use it for extra wood and stuff, and save it up for our raised beds and, you know, some of my potting mix, because I'll buy the potting mix to start my seeds. It's so much easier than trying to put it together, and that way it's nice, and you can get it fairly inexpensive. And but I've got, for my raised beds, I'm not buying that dirt. You've seen when I went down to the edge of town, that beautiful black gold in that pile down there. I've been working on bringing that home, some of that home. I'm going to fill my raised beds with my compost. I think I'm going to do what they call lasagna gardening. No, and it's not growing stuff for lasagna. It means it's just like layering. You layer your garden. I'm going to layer my raised bed with compost and manure and topsoil. And I'm going to keep making layers until I get to the very top, is going to be the topsoil. And then as it composts down, it feeds your plants wonderfully. So that, friends, is what I'm going to do. And I believe they call it lasagna gardening. I'm not sure, but you layer it like you would making a pan of lasagna. So, and it does wonderful. It works fantastic. Now here I've already got started on my raised bed where I'm going to grow my potatoes. And I've got my straw. When I did my straw bale gardening last year in it, I just left the straw in there to compost down. So I spread that around, and then I added a little, of my leaves and stuff in there, and then I'm gonna put a layer of dirt on there, and then some manure and some more dirt, and I'm gonna do my potatoes in there, and I've got to get those planted this month. So we'll have a video on that. I'll show you how I do my potatoes, and it works fantastic. I always have a wonderful, wonderful harvest of potatoes, and my mom knows that one. It was funny because I used to always tell her, our garden was up on our tree nursery, and it was a little more than 1 acre size, but we had the potatoes and everything. We planted a 25-pound bag of potatoes, and my mom says, oh, I'm going to plant everything in June after the frost. And I said, you really need to get the potatoes in April to get a nice harvest. Oh, no, she didn't believe me. She says, no, I'm just going to plant them in June. We'll get a beautiful harvest out of them. Well, yeah, we got about 100 pounds we got just a little over 100 pounds out of a 25-pound bag of seed potatoes. And we planted them in June like she wanted. And I told her, I said, okay, now that we've done this year, it was the next year. I said, last year we planted the potatoes the way you wanted it. I said, this year I'm gonna show you something, and we're gonna plant them the way I want them planted. And she says, okay, that's fair. So I took the same, a 25 pound, same potatoes, same thing, same size, everything. The 25-pound bag. We planted them by Good Friday. My dad, plowed up the area, the whole garden. He had it all ready, and all we had to do was plant our potatoes. Well, we planted the same amount of potatoes, but instead of planting them in June, we planted them by Good Friday around, the second week of April. Well, it was in when we went to harvest those potatoes, the previous year, I told you we got about 120 pounds, roughly. When we planted them in April, we got 800 pounds of potatoes out of that 25-pound bag of seed potatoes. We had potatoes coming out our ears, and my mom says, maybe we should plant them in May. We don't need that many. But no, we had tons of potatoes. I think that year I canned over 100 quarts of potatoes, and we gave about 200 or 300 pounds away. We'd give them to people around the village that could use them, And, oh my gosh, we had potatoes coming out our ears. But it worked. It was nice because if you're going to plant them, you might as well plant them and get a good crop. So that's why I need to get my potatoes in, because I am planting them in a small area, and I want to get as much harvest as I possibly can out of that small area. And doing it this way, I will. I'm also going to plant the red Pontiac Reds and the blue potatoes. I love those. Those are wonderful. So we're going to do that. And then the rest of the planting will be in the greenhouse in my starters. And that I got to get going between around the third week of April. I'll start those because they need to go 5-6 weeks before you plant them outside. Because we can't plant our gardens here, not where I live anyway, in Michigan. We get frost. We can get frost in June. So, and you never know when you just never know. So you just wait till June to plant your garden. So that way, if I start them inside, they'll be good and strong and ready to plant, and they'll take off nicely. So I'll have all of May to get my raised beds ready, and I'll do a video on that too. And I'll show you how I do the arch trellises. We're going to do the arch trellises, and we do ours out of cattle panels. So they'll be nice because I got all my variety of pole beans that I want to grow on the trellises. Our garden this year is going to be absolutely beautiful and quite colorful. But I don't think I'm going to do any straw bale gardening this year. Not because I don't like it. I think it's fantastic. But I don't have the drip irrigation that really it requires. I don't have it, and nor can I really afford to do a drip irrigation. There's no way. So that's kind of out this year. Last year it did pretty good, but I had to water it. I watered it daily, and if you want to be productive, you almost need a drip irrigation. And my friend from Wisconsin who has Brew City Gardening, he's fantastic. So if you are interested in doing straw bale gardening, which really is successful, it's fantastic. You need to watch his channel because he takes you along baby steps. He takes you along and shows you everything you need to do, and the guy's amazing. He's just awesome. He's the one that told me to get my seeds from mygardener.com, and they're fantastic. So I'm telling you, he's got a wealth of information for straw bale gardening, and if you want to do that, you can't fail. But you will need drip irrigation. Just keep that in mind. Me, I'm going to do mine in raised beds this year, only because, and I'll tell you why. I would love to be able. Well, first off, we got a humongous hole in the middle of that property we bought because there was a house there and they tore it down. And they didn't clean none of it up. They just took the wood away. So there's glass and we're still digging up plastic. I dug a blanket. There was a piece of something sticking out of the ground when I was raking. And I thought, what is this? And I pulled it, and I pulled it, and I pulled it, and it wound up being a blanket that I pulled up. And it's like, oh my word, what's all in this ground? Glass and everything. So glass keeps coming up out of the ground. But what was I saying? Oh, I would love to be able to. We'd have to fill in that hole, and then I could have, my garden on the ground. But right now, we'd have so much cleaning to do with the glass that keeps coming up. And that's another reason really why I don't want my chickens to completely free range, because I know they'd wind up over there and it would just break my heart if one of them was scratching around and cut one of her little toes or something off on that glass. So I keep them on this side of my yard in the chicken tractor, and that won't happen because all the glass is over there. I just raked up, when I raked over there, I raked up blankets. I pulled out a bottom of a 5-gallon pail, and then there was those aluminum like turkey pans, those big oval turkey pans. I pulled one of those. There was something sticking up that was shiny, and I dug it with the shovel, and I thought, what is this? And I pulled it up, and it says turkey pan. It's like, oh my goodness, these people just tore this house down. I think they buried everything that was in the house and just took the wood away. So who knows what we're going to find? You never know. That house was there for probably 100 years anyway, or better. So with that, that's why I'm going to do my gardens in raised beds. And I think they're easier to maintain as well. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that. And I'm going to do a lot of vlogs. And I know I'm still doing, I haven't stopped with the healthy eating series, but I haven't done a lot of cooking. I've done a few desserts and stuff, but I haven't done a whole lot of cooking. I was thinking about doing a leg of lamb for Easter. Very, very expensive, so it depends on my budget. But man, that stuff is wonderful. And then make a real nice mint sauce to go with it. I love leg of lamb. And it's usually real popular for Easter. But I don't know. It just depends on what kind of sale I can get, if I can get a sale. So I might do that. But anyway, I'm going to do some more videos, both comfort food and healthy eating series, and some desserts and that. But I'm going to be doing more vlogs and doing more stuff outside because we have more projects going on outside than we do in the house. So I don't want anybody to think that I've given up on cooking or anything. It's just there's a lot to do right now outside, and I can share a lot with you outside. So it'll be more vlogs and pantry chit chats right now than so much cooking recipes. But I promise that I'll get them in there. Anyway, so not much else. There was a lot going on. Now it's raining out today, so I probably will be doing a cooking video today because I don't want to go out there in the rain. And I left the chickens in the coop because yesterday it started to rain and you'd have thought, you know, tornado was coming or something, but they got in that coop real fast. And then they come back out. They go in and out and in and out. And last night my husband had to go out. Oh, it was just dark time. They didn't want to go in. They were still scratching in that compost. So he went out and he put them all in there and closed them up for the night. Made sure they were all safe and had their water and stuff. So I might let them out. I don't know. Chickens don't mind so much rain. But we did put all the hay. They've got a little section in their on the run on the bottom of their coop, under their coop, that is kind of protected because we put all the hay on the one side, so at least they'll have a little protection there from rain or anything. So they should be all right. I probably should let them out and put some more compost under there for them to dig and scratch around with. They loving that. And they'd find, oh my gosh, it was hilarious. We were laughing so hard because these little hens would find a piece of worm or a grub or something, and they would just take off chasing. They'd chase the one that's got it. And they would be chasing her all around underneath that coop trying to get that darn worm from her. And then here comes the little rooster, okay? All the chickens are running one way. He's got something in his mouth, and he's just running like mad, like somebody's chasing him. And there's nobody chasing him. He had that thing in his mouth, and he was running all around that coop, or all around that run, like somebody was chasing him. And we were cracking up laughing because they were all chasing the other hen. It was so darn funny. I think they got personality. Anyway, I'm not going to keep you any longer. Just a kind of a short chit chat, just to tell you how my weekend went and how we're going along on our projects. And I'm so excited. And by the way, when we were out riding around Saturday, I found, and I told my husband, I said, "What's that on the side of the road?" And he stops, and there they were. It looked like a planter, you know, the hanging basket, the big white planters, but it didn't have the hanger part on it. Well, he picked it up. There was actually 4 of them there, and they were perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with them. I said, "Throw them in the trunk." I said, because I can use those for starters. Because, you know, I'll cut milk jugs, and I use old butter dishes. I use whatever I possibly can to start seeds in, because you know what? Those seed trays are not cheap, and I can't afford them. That's all there is to it. So I'm going to start all mine and whatever I got handy. So anyway, yep, and I found those, and that was a great little find. I find neat stuff like that. I remember one time I was out riding around in the spring, I found a 50-pound bag of corn laying in a ditch. And I also, I picked it up too. I put it in the back, and that's when I had my chickens, my 40 chickens, when I lived out of town. So you know what they ate, because heck yeah, I took that home. That was a nice little find. And I wanted to see, what did I find? Oh, pop cans. In Michigan, I don't know about where you guys are, any of you are from, but in Michigan, your pop cans and your Monster drinks and stuff like that, they all have a 10-cent refund on them from Michigan. But still, people throw them in the ditches, the beer cans. I picked up, when we were riding around Saturday, you know, I thought to myself, these people want to throw out their money. That's fine. I will pick it up, because I am not too proud to take in returnables, because you know what? I've got about $13 worth in my basement, and that'll buy a nice roast for my freezer. And it was all free. All I had to do was get out of the car and pick it up. So, and that's what I did. And I bet you Saturday alone, I probably got about $5 in pop bottles and cans laying on the side of the road. We had a wonderful time. I had a ball. So anyway, I'm going to go. I'm going to see if I can't get my chickens to come outside. And then I'm going to do some kind of a dessert video. I'll surprise you with something. But anyway, you all have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you tomorrow.